Good evening, sharps and squares, degenerates and casual bettors. I'm the Wizard of Odds, Christopher Smith, and this is the SEC Country Gambling Show presented by MyBookie. We're live every Thursday night from Atlanta, Georgia, and on this show we have one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to win you some cold, hard cash. All right, I'm joined by the Sheriff, Mr. Steve Petrella. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm fantastic. Heading into week 9, ready to win some more money.
Yeah, let's take a look at my power rankings in the SEC entering week 9. And as you can see, as it's been all season, we've had Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn. Georgia and Auburn have flipped a little bit. Those have always been the best 3 teams. And this week we have a great game between 4 and 5. Mississippi State and A&M face off to see who, outside of that first tier, is the next best team. Maybe some cowbell later in the show. As you can see, as we turn from the first half of the SEC to the next half, Florida has lost a couple close games. They're sitting at 8 in my rankings. Kentucky got put back in their place last week. And then you have Kentucky and Arkansas, or Tennessee and Arkansas, 2 teams whose head coaches may not make it out of this season. And then beyond that, good luck. So let's go ahead and turn to the Week 9 SEC lines now as well and see where those are. Thank goodness we have some lines that are less than double digits for once, finally in the SEC. It's been a while. We do have a terrible Missouri-Connecticut game still on the slate. But outside of that, you know, South Carolina is a 7-point favorite. Tennessee is a 5-point underdog at Kentucky. Arkansas is a 3.5-point underdog at Ole Miss. Some competitive games at least. And then you have, I think the most competitive game is Mississippi State A&M, and then the headliner game is Georgia, Florida. So at least you have some different games with some different interests this week.
There's options to bet, different kind of lines. I always like that in a slate.
Yeah, and I think we're going to go ahead and get into the first game, which of course is Florida, Georgia.
Yeah, the biggest, well, in perception, the biggest one of the week, and probably the only one that has implications for the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is that Georgia has not won by 14 or more against Florida since 1997. And Florida's won 3 consecutive here by an average of 18.7 points. So entering this game, there's not a lot of history saying that Georgia can win by more than 2 touchdowns. But then you look at Florida's offense and you see Felipe Franks at quarterback. Granted, he's got an NFL arm. He's completed close to 64% of his passes. And a couple of other good things. He's getting Tyree Cleveland and Kadarius Toney back from injury. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, his coaches don't trust him. The receivers, when Cleveland and Toney have been hurt, can't get open against one-on-one coverage. Plays zone defense against him, and he's confused as hell. He has no idea where to go with the football. So, but Georgia's defense gave up a couple of big plays against Missouri in the passing game. And I think that's the one thing that Florida has to do. If they can complete 1 or 2 or 3 passes downfield and maybe make a play on special teams, maybe make a play on defense. Because this offense against a top 5 Georgia defense nationally, they're not going to score in the 20s. So it's going to be a struggle for them to score between 14 and 17 points. So Florida is hoping that it's a low-scoring game. But on the other side of the ball, I'm afraid that Georgia's running backs are just too good. If Georgia gets a halftime lead, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, Florida's defense may wear out in the second half, especially if you can turn Florida into a one-dimensional offense where they only can run the ball. So I know this is a big number, 13.5. Georgia is getting Trenton Thompson back from injury. So I think that'll be a big help to them. And I know that Georgia fans are going to be nervous for this game because of recent history, because of the way that Mark Richt tended to play below their talent level in big games. But I'm going Georgia on this one. If you can get less than 2 touchdowns, I'm all over Georgia. I like the Bulldogs in this game.
All right. And of course, that's neutral site in Jacksonville, as always, so something to keep in mind when you're making your picks. Next game, like you mentioned, maybe the most closely matched or one of the most intriguing games of the week between 2 of the 5 best teams in the SEC, in Mississippi State and Texas A&M, close to a pick'em. Who do you like in this one? Yeah, you know, I still think people are slightly underestimating Mississippi State. This is like a better version of LSU, basically. Mm-hmm. They're not explosive at all. They can't throw downfield. But they are really, really efficient. And what they do is they just run the ball 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. They ran the ball more than 108 times in the last 2 games combined. I think they ran it 109 times in the last 2 games. So you look at this game, Mississippi State's offensive line, better than Texas A&M. Mississippi State's front 7, better than Texas A&M. So, you know, these 2 teams are very similar. A&M wants to run the ball. The one thing that A&M has in this game is they have Christian Kirk.
but that hasn't really done much for them all season. Mississippi State can't let Christian Kirk go off on a long return, but if Mississippi State doesn't give up a huge play to Christian Kirk in the passing game or on a punt return, I don't really see any way that Texas A&M can win this game. A&M's just not quite as good in any area. So the game's in College Station. A&M is a higher profile team. For some reason, people still expect them to be the better team. But in S&P Plus, which is a great analytical stat, A&M's 43rd, Mississippi State's 24th. So I think that's about right. I'm picking Mississippi State in this game. Who do you think you got in this game? That's a slow cowbell ring, but I think the cowbell. Mississippi State's where you want to put your money in this game. That opened at Pick'em. They're now about a 1.5-point favorite. I still like them. I think they should be maybe about a 6-point favorite in this game. So put your money on Mississippi State.
Yep, and buy a cowbell with that money and ring it often in your house. Your family will.
Don't do it around the sheriff. He'll arrest you.
I sure will. Noise violation. Last one. We had some news today out of this game. Some pretty big news. You never like to think that one player, a non-quarterback in a college football game, can make this big of a difference, but in Tennessee's case, John Kelly makes that big of a difference, and he's not going to play on Saturday.
Don't do drugs, kids. Just say no.
Yeah.
I think that's a lesson that John Kelly hopefully learned this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully all you guys are practicing that as well. Just have one vice, bet on mybookie.ag. Don't do all this drug stuff. Tennessee opened as a 6-point underdog at Kentucky. And two things about that. One, who would have ever guessed that would be the line? Just like sort of Nebraska's an underdog to Purdue this week. Tennessee, an underdog against Kentucky, come on. But also, strangely, the reality of the situation currently is that Butch Jones is not a dead man walking. He has not lost his job yet, and not even like in a way where they're going to let him coach out the season. Butch Jones could still be the head coach in 2018 at Tennessee. Granted, he probably needs to win every single game, but the power brokers behind the scenes are still giving him a chance. So I kind of figured we saw that Kentucky's defensive line get exposed last week. Mississippi State pushed them around, ran all over them. So now Tennessee's got a great running back in John Kelly who could probably run all over Kentucky as well. And now he's not going to play because he got cited for marijuana. So this line went all the way down from 6 to 3.5. Now it's back up in the 4.5-point range in sort of no man's land now. May even go up to 5 or 6 again. I did like Tennessee when I thought John Kelly was going to play in this game. My whole bet was behind the fact that John Kelly was going to run all over Kentucky. Kentucky's offense is average. Their defense is okay. And I thought Tennessee would be able to run the ball in this game. But now that John Kelly's not playing, forget that. I almost hit myself in the head there, and that's what you should do if you're going to bet on this game at all. Stay away, pass, bet on Mississippi State, bet on Georgia. You don't need to bet on this Tennessee game.
These guys, but...
And where do you want to bet?
If you're going to bet, we got to talk about this, of course. It's mybookie.ag.
That's true. The promo code is SEC Wizard. I believe you can see it right here. It's an awesome code. You should remember it.
They will double your deposit if you use SEC Wizard. Every dollar you put in, they will match it. And
if you're a small-time gambler and you deposit $100, that's still awesome. You get $100. If you're a whale and you're betting, tens of thousands on every game, that's another huge amount of money that you can get either way. If you use SEC Wizard at mybookie.ag. And there's some picks that I have as well. In addition to these two, since we threw away the Tennessee card, let's take a look at a few more of my picks in the SEC this week and also across the country. Just sticking in the SEC, I lean a little bit to Missouri. I got them. I put a little down on them, -11. Drew Lock destroys bad teams. UConn is another bad team. They scored in the 60s against Idaho last week. And for some reason, Josh Heupel, I'll use the word butthole. I won't use a different word, but he tends to like to put it on other teams. Let's just say that. He doesn't pump the brakes when they're up big. He kind of likes to humiliate people when he gets a chance to do it. But that said, ironic. 77 points is a huge number.
Yeah.
I think this number should be around 65, 66. So Missouri-UConn under is another one that I like. And then you can take a look at the rest of these picks. Lane Kiffin, if you follow him at all at Florida Atlantic, he's been putting it on people, had more than 800 yards of offense last week. It's another one that I like. But you can look at this. I'm 25 games over 500. I'm still at 60%. Had an off week last week, so you can bet 6 out of the 8 weeks I've had a really good week. So you can bet I'm due for one this week. And yeah, those are the picks this week.
But there's one more guy who's due. He's always due. He's perpetually just due for success because that's what he does.
That's true. And he doesn't give analysis, so you're not going to hear a lot from him. But he doesn't have to. He's super smart. He knows his stuff. And he spends all day doing like household improvement projects and just thinking about the games. So let's go to our Lock of the Week man now, and let's see what he has for us this week.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Lock of the Week.
Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Lock of the Week.
It's that. I don't know if I trust his. I think we got to get him to work on his cowbell ringing a little bit, but I trust his pick.
If they win this week, he'll be cowbelling a lot during the game in his household.
He will. Maybe even around this office somewhere.
Potentially.
Yeah, but I think that's all we have for this week. For the Sheriff Steve Petrella, I'm the Wizard of Odds, Christopher Smith, reminding you that good teams win and great teams cover. God bless America, everybody. Have fun out there, and we'll see you next week.